Peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of Maintain Your Islamic Identity and Still Be a Boss Muslimapreneur. I'm your host, Halima de Oliveira of BUNHD. Today I'm joined by my co-host, Bayan Jondy, co-founder of Zina, a modest clothing fashion brand. Women often appear to suffer from the misconception that to be successful in business or accepted in society, they have to diminish or denounce their faith or beliefs. As a business coach, I have encountered women cross-culturally who face internal conflict regarding their religious identity, maintaining their family roles, and being their most authentic selves. I developed this podcast to help guide them back to reclaiming their faith, better define their Islamic roles so they can own their identity, live their absolute best life, and be a powerhouse in business. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Bayan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. So if you could introduce yourself to our listeners and also introduce your business.
Sure. So I am Bayan Jondy. I am the co-founder of simplyzina.com. It is an American modest fashion brand. My sister and I started it about 7 years ago. So we sell all kinds of modest clothing.
I love it, love it, love it. Love it, love it, love it. That's awesome. So I'm going to tell you, so you don't know this, but the very first time that I was introduced to your brand was at Hijab Fest. I believe it was 3 years ago. It might have been 2 or 3 years ago. And I don't know if you still have it on your website. I believe you do. It's like this green button-down front dress. It's like this, and it's just button down. I think it comes in another color too. I think it comes in like royal blue. I fell in love with that. And ever since then, I've been following your brand. So that's what made me connect with you. I love your clothes. I was a tomboy when I was younger. So like the abayas and all that stuff.
That wasn't working for you.
No, climbing trees in an abaya was just not going to work. So, I'm good with the knee length, slightly above the knee. I'm good to go with those styles. So I certainly love your brand. I purchased a few of your hijabs and I'm so in love with them. So whoever's listening, if you have not taken a look at their website, it's simplyzina.com. I mean, go and grab you something. Their hijabs are absolutely awesome. So, and then you have different sizes too.
We do.
So that's what I like too.
We do. And we actually added plus sizes this year. So we're working on adding more and more for more women that are looking for modest clothes, and it's hard to find.
I love it. I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
And you know what I love too? I love that, it's modest clothes. And, of course, as a Muslima, and both of us are Muslimas, of course, we're always looking for modest clothing. But what about, that woman that is religious, but she's not necessarily Muslim? You guys offer that alternative for her as well. So I think that's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We really, through our business, we live in a society that's inclusive, that we are, from all walks of life, and we really hope that our company represents that also.
You know what? We are like that too. So even though this says, hey, boss Muslimapreneur and all that kind of stuff, we believe in diversity and inclusion as well. So I'm glad that you brought that up because, we can't be the amazing Muslimas that we are, if, we're not supporting our friends. That's a part of being an amazing or boss Muslima. Is, being, that amazing friend to your friend, whether she or is Muslim or not. And, just being this amazing person just in society and making an amazing contribution. So I really love that. So you got it. So one of the questions here, so let me just go over here to your list of questions, my dear. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted to hit September. We've deemed Self-Care September. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to weave, business, of course, fashion, this is all that encompasses a boss Muslima and also self-care. So the questions will kind of interweave that way. So what made you and your sister get into fashion? Was there a particular point that you were like, oh, I want to be in fashion?
All right, let's go way back.
Okay.
So you had mentioned abaya, right? And,
Yes.
I think a long time ago, a lot of people were into the abaya. And I think at that point in our lives, we knew that that did not represent us and it did not represent who we were. And when I walk out into the world, I really feel that my clothes represents my personality, expresses my personality, and expresses who I am. And so we started to make our own clothes. We started to have someone sew them for us. We started sketching and designing. And as we made our own clothes, our friends and family were like, hey, we want one too. And then so we'd be like, well, I want one and I want one. And so then we were really into it. And then we thought to ourselves, okay, it looks like everybody else wants this too.
Nice.
And so that's when we took the plunge and decided to start the business and start designing for ourselves and for everybody else all at the same time.
Nice.
I really think it's important as Muslim women that we're not, that we don't get held back in fashion or in anything else just because we wear hijab. I actually think it should be a plus to everything we do, not a minus, and I think that is where that's the main reason why we got into fashion.
I love it. And I'll just, kind of add my 2 cents in here is that, everything that I've done, I love social media in that you can chronicle, especially Instagram, you can chronicle your day and chronicle the places that you've been, because there were 2 major people that I wanted to meet and just ask, them questions because I had been following them for years. And one of them was Eric Thomas and the other, he's a motivational speaker. And the other one was Lisa Nichols, also a motivational speaker. And how I chronicled that is I wore this hot pink hijab, the hottest pink that you could find. And I took a picture next to them. And of course, it was because I wanted to meet them. But it was also to chronicle that as a hijabi, I too can't have dreams. I too, have aspirations, and so can you. And you can do them in your hijab. You don't have to forego your hijab. Yeah. To be this boss woman, to be this amazing woman, meet these superstars. I actually met Todd from Atlanta Housewives. Oh. I don't even watch the show. I'll be honest. I don't even watch the show. But we happened upon his restaurant and I was like, I totally need some mac and cheese. And we go in and he's unloading the truck. So my 2 girlfriends who are not Muslim, they sat down. They were like, oh, we should totally meet him. I'm like, yeah, we totally should. So they leave the hijabi to go over and ask him if he'll come over and take a picture with us. So I did it. It's fine. So, but great. Just another thing to just say, hey, we too can. And I'm doing it as a hijabi. I don't have to forego that. So pretty cool.
Yes.
So this will probably be the toughest question that I'll ask. Mm-hmm. And do you face challenges serving the Muslim and the non-Muslim community in fashion? And we talked a little bit earlier about this. You serve both. Do you face any issues with that? Many of the listeners that I encounter, so the whole BUNHD camp is about being your best self. And sometimes, we're not comfortable in our hijab. And so some of the listeners are at crossroads and don't know whether they should choose one over the other. So they don't know should I, wear my hijab? Should I forego it? That kind of thing. So what are some of the challenges you face?
Okay, so I will say that there are challenges, but I honestly look at them as opportunities. And I'm not just saying that. I think when I first started, I saw them as challenges and, oh my God, how are we going to get through this? And now I'm like, oh, this is an opportunity. This is where you get to be creative. And so, a lot of times you have to be quick on your feet and a little more creative than the next person when you are in hijab to make sure you navigate new territory. So I always say it's how you approach the situation. We definitely cater to both. And I've learned that over the years that, we can't just say modesty is for a person who wears a scarf. You can be modest whether you wear a scarf or not. And you can take a piece of clothing and cater it to 10 different people depending on how they want to wear it. It's not for me to judge. It's not for me to decide. It's what that customer, what that person wants to look like or represent themselves. And that's what I'm doing. So before I used to think a lot about it, and now it's more about, no, I'm going to create this shirt. You can wear it modestly. You can wear it any way you would like to wear it. And so I think that's how I look at it now.
I can totally attest to that. Just going back to the green top, that green top comes with a belt. I've never worn the belt.
Yeah.
That's just my preference. But I've tried it as a necklace. I've done it as a wrist, and then I've put like pearls over it. So I've jazzed it up a little bit, but I've never worn it as a belt, and that's just my preference. So, I actually had a young lady. She had a question, and one of her questions was, Halima, will you ever have an episode where you ask someone, is it okay for me to put a belt with this outfit? And basically, it's a young lady. She has a clothing line, very similar to yours, where right now she's not necessarily catering to the Muslim woman. When you see her in pictures, she's fully dressed, but she doesn't necessarily model her own clothes because she dressed modestly, and then the clothes are kind of on that border. So her question was, well, can I put a belt with this abaya, or can I do this? And, what's your answer to that young lady? What's your answer to her?
My answer to her is, I believe the way you dress is very personal. I don't think we as women or as Muslims should dictate anymore what people should or should not be doing. People need to understand their religion, and what they believe in their religion and what they believe is how they should dress. So I would say when I was younger, it was different. When I'm a little older, it's different. It changes over the years, right? If you think of yourself from when you were younger until now, things change along the way. What those reasons are, people can pinpoint to different things. So for the young lady, I would tell her, what are you comfortable in? Could you stand in front of God and say, this is okay? If that's your litmus test, what's your litmus test,
Gotcha. Yeah.
I have my own personal litmus test, right? I think modesty to me has become very personal. And I think people need to decide that on their own, what they're comfortable in.
I really like that because, I will tell you, I was born Muslim. So for me, I've gone through, if you look at pictures of me when I was younger, full abaya, like, nothing, everything was baggy. It was just like, oh, where's your body? Like, where are you? Right.
Yeah.
And then, I went through a phase where I wore a turban. I went through the whole like Nefertiti. I wore Nefertiti earrings. I wore the turban. I went through all of that. And then, I came back to, kind of like this middle road where, my clothes are loose fitting, to the knees and that kind of thing. And that's where I am right now. And, if I go to the mosque, it's an abaya or it's a longer dress or something like that. But that's where I'm comfortable. And, I teach a lot of workshops. And when I go to those workshops, I let the ladies know right away, this is where I am with, where I am. Don't, I don't want you to take this as, kind of, for lack of a better word, the gospel. Like, don't take it as, hey, go follow Halima. No, do it according to what you think. It's like, people ask me all the time, what mosque do you go to? And I don't give that up either, because that's personal as well. I go to Mosque A because I am comfortable there and I feel like I get the message that, God, Allah has for me. And so, that's where I want to go, and that's where I want to go to receive the message. So I always say to people, hey, go to a whole bunch of different places, try a whole bunch of different things, and then do what suits you best.
And what you're saying right now, yeah, that's right on point. I think it's up to each person to make that decision. You're an adult, and just figure out what works in your life. I don't know what you do for a living. I don't know what your background is. I don't know any of that. And so to tell you belt or no belt or that, and you know what? At the end of the day, if you put God first, that's really what matters, right? And so focus on that.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. It's not what you wear that's not what it is. It's what you pray and what you put into practice. Totally with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's another question. Similar lines is, how and where do you draw the line between modesty and fashion? So again, with this, alluding to the belt or, just alluding to, modesty and fashion. I love bright colors. So that's kind of where that question came from. And most of us women do, like bright colors, all that kind of stuff. So how do you draw the line?
I think this is a great question. On a business level, I'll tell you that I leave it up to the customer. I will let you know that my customers will, they know what colors they're looking for, and that is what I end up ordering or making something in because that's what they love. On a personal level, that's really different. And I think, like I told you before, it's changed over the years. But I will tell you that for me personally, modesty becomes before fashion. But I will play around with an outfit forever until I get it to be both. If I want to wear something, I'm going to wear it. I'm just going to figure out how to wear it modestly and make sure that it looks nice.
Nice. I love it. I love putting together, like I've seen you guys put together like patterns and like the flowers. I'm actually going to try it on Sunday. I'll be at Hijab Fest on Sunday, so I'm going to totally try it. So I'll be wearing one of your hijabs. So
that's wonderful.
You guys be sure to give me the thumbs up when I wear it. It will be my first time trying like a pattern and like a flower print together. So we'll see what happens.
That's great. I like it. You're stepping out of your zone. I like that.
I totally am. I never used to wear black. And now because of like, speaking, black is kind of like, one of those slimming things. You can take a picture and it'll always come out right. But I always wear a hijab or a shoe that has a pop of color just to bring it out. But the black just seems to work just, for speaking. Maybe it'll change later. I don't know. But that's where I am now.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. So what are 3 tips you would give an aspiring Muslima in fashion?
The 3 tips. So I would say be true to yourself. So, when you had asked me the question before, where do you draw the line? I think a lot of people overthink things. If there's something you want to do, go out and do it. Okay. Just be true to yourself. There are so many things you can do in the fashion industry. I think we just think of ourselves as just design, owning a business, all these there are so many factors that go into runway shows, production, running a business, all of these things that you can be a part of fashion. There's so many things you can do and just navigate it one step at a time. But if you're going to do any of it, the first thing I would tell you to do is be true to yourself. Don't get lost in the hype.
Nice. Absolutely. Same thing with, my business, like, and I'm sure you can attest to this is I'm sure you have competition all around you. I'm sure you have people popping up left and right, similar styles, et cetera, et cetera. And, the first thing is you start to look at it and then you have to remind yourself, reel it in, because why did you start your business? Why did you start Simply Zena? Why did you start it? And then you go back to that main focus and you just continue to dominate in your lane. You could try to do something that another company is doing and totally fail at it because that's not what your client expects of you.
Yeah.
So totally agree.
Yeah.
Love it.
Very true. The second one my advice would be is that you work hard. It's, I think a lot of people, when they start things, they kind of dabble a little bit into it, and that's fine if you're trying to figure it out. But once you're in it, you really need to work hard. Put all of your energy into it. And so that would be my second piece of advice. My second tip would be, whatever you're going to do, just work really hard at it. And like you said, there's always someone popping up. There's always competition. And so you have to stay on your toes and you have to work really hard.
Nice.
And last but not least, the third tip I would share is don't be afraid to fail because you will, but you'll learn from it. I don't know anyone that started a business or anyone that's gone into any kind of career that hasn't failed at something in their field, in their area, but they learn from it. And so I think a lot of times what holds us back is this fear of failure. But it's better to take the risk and better to try than to never have tried at all. And so I would tell people that, really go into it. You're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen. It's how you handle those mistakes. It's not whether or not you make them.
Got it. Can you elaborate a little bit on what you just said about, you're going to make mistakes? Elaborate a little bit more on, what that takes. For me, it's forgiving myself each time, I make a mistake. And then, of course, what you just said, learning from it and just saying, okay, What were you supposed to learn from that? What will you not do again? And then what were you supposed to learn from that? Sometimes it's, oh, you were too hasty on that one, Halima, or, something like that. So talk to me a little bit about, you're going to make mistakes.
So let me think of more specifics. So you're going to make mistakes. So when I started the business, right, I mean, till this day, you always have roadblocks and there are always things that happen. So for example, an issue came up with a customer and I should have handled it a different way than what I did. It's a mistake. I learned from it. So the next time I have an issue, someone has an issue with their packaging, this is how we're going to deal with it. A, B, C, and D. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to move on. I'm not going to stay upset for too long, and I'm not going to beat myself up too much about it. And maybe one day I can look back and start laughing at what I did. Right? But that the next time this happens, that the next person that walks in my door, it's handled. They're taken care of. There's no mistake made there.
Absolutely. I think sometimes it does. It does. I think sometimes we can take it personal because our business is our baby. And sometimes we can take it personal, like, oh, no, what do you mean you want to return it? Or what do you mean you didn't like the service? That kind of thing. I know I did in the beginning. I was like, I remember getting like a comment. It was like a comment and it was so like to the left. I was like, why are you like, why are you beating me up? Like, I only mean well. And, it's one in thousands. One in thousands of people, that may not necessarily agree. But when you looked at her comment, what could I take positive from that? There was an opportunity with that. Maybe I was wording things. Maybe I could change the wording. And that's all it was.
And Halima, that also brings up, like, not everyone's going to like you. And that's okay. And that's okay. And that's okay. And not everyone's going, you know what I mean? And I don't mean you personally. I mean, no. In general. When you start something, when you are doing something, not everyone's going to like you. And that's okay. Everybody has their opinions, their personalities. But it's how I handle myself that I'm responsible for. And how I, like you said, how I soak in that information. And you can always take things, what's the word I'm looking for? So when you soak it in, you can make it into something positive. I think sometimes it takes a minute to learn that. And I think in the beginning, it took a minute to learn that it's not that serious at the end of the day. And if you can get through it and fix the situation, it's going to be even better the next time. And then you can move on to bigger and better things.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the first lessons that if you're paying attention that you actually learn in business is to not take everything so personal and not to take everything so seriously and to have like this almost immediate bounce back, almost like, okay, that happened. What did I learn? And immediately go into that. I think, that's what you're alluding to is that immediately go into that. Hey, this is the bounce back. So what did I learn from this? What won't I do going forward? And like you said before, how do we as a business, how do we handle issues like this or concerns like this when they come up again? And then it's no longer a concern. And then you move on to the next great thing that you create for your business. Like, let's get back to business, really.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's get back to being boss Muslimas. Like, let's go.
Yeah, all right.
True.
So you said energy continue on.
Yes. Like, I just think about, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he smiled. He was going through all kinds of turmoil, but he smiled. He didn't worry about, what was going on to his right or to his left. He just worried about him and then he just moved on. So here's my final question. So this is a BU and HD question. So what does it mean to be you in HD? What does it mean to be you in high definition?
So for me, it means working hard, enjoying moments with friends and family, and encouraging others to find what makes them happy.
I love it. That's like the premise of BU in HD. It's like, just being your absolute best self and just living your absolute best life. Like, in Islam, it said, life goes by in a blink of an eye. Why waste time? Why waste time unhappy for one moment? And that just leads to the quote of the week that we have. And it says, life is too short, the world is too big, and God's love is too great to live ordinary. And that is by Christine Kane. It's one of my favorite quotes. Yeah, I'm going to say it one more time. Yeah, thank you. You can have it if you want. Like hang it above your desk or something like that.
That's a great quote.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and take us out of here, Bayan.
Okay.
Unless you have anything that you want to add, go ahead and let them know where they can find you. If they want to tag you on Instagram, if they want to see what you guys have going on, go ahead and give them your Instagram handle and your address, your web address.
Okay, so you can find us on Simply Zena LLC on Instagram, and our web address is simplyzena, ZEENA.com. Come check us out.
Absolutely. Please go check her out. I'm telling you, like, if you guys saw my hijab from last week, it was rocking. I have not revealed my hijab for this week just yet, but you guys are going to love it too. This one I like too. It has a dash of BUNHD pink in it.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, mashallah. Okay, so I'm going to take us on out of here and go ahead with the outro, and we will be good to go.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. This has been another spectacular episode of Maintain Your Islamic Identity and Still Be a Boss Muslimapreneur. It is our hope here at BUNHD that after each podcast, you will be empowered to have a deeper connection in your spirituality, personal, and business relationships. As women of faith, we have a responsibility to learn our religion, apply it to our daily lives, and to make a positive contribution in our local and global community. My inspirational quote of the week is by Christine Kane. Life is too short, the world is too big, and God's love is too great to live ordinary. Have an amazing week.